Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Hannah if you're new here, and in today's video we're doing the best of the year. We're wrapping up 2023 with the best books I read. Now on the screen right now I'm going to be showing off all of the honorable mentions, all of the books that I gave higher than a 4-star but less than a full 5-star. So anything from 4.25 to a 4.5 stars. And I just had too many books to talk about, but these are all excellent books, but for one reason or another they weren't quite that full 5-star. So in this video we're talking about all the books I gave full 5 stars to, and a very brief reason as to why. Because we have 16 books to talk about, I'm going to try to get through this rather quickly. The order of this video are going to be chronological. So the first book that I gave 5 stars to in January to the last book I gave 5 stars to at the very end of December. On December 30th is when I read that last 5-star read. So let's get into it. First, to no one's surprise, we have a Brandon Sanderson on the list, and it's Tress of the Emerald Sea. This is the Secret Project #1 that came out January 1st of 2023. I read it on release day and the day after and absolutely adored this cozy fantasy adventure story. This felt very charming and sweet and cozy and fun, as well as a sweet, touching little romance. I loved the deaf representation in here, and this also had a very excellent world and interesting world building, and it really fits well into the Cosmere as a Cosmere standalone. So this was the first 5-star read of the year. Then we actually have The Romantic Agenda by Claire Kahn, and this is a contemporary romance about two best friends that are kind of in love with each other, but they're dating other people to try to get over each other, and this is the romance between our main character and the person she's trying to fake date. And this was really sweet and tender and loving, specifically for the ace representation. The main character is asexual, and I think that how that was explored was really interesting and something I'd never really experienced before. And I thought this was just a very sweet romance overall, and it really kind of touched me at the end there, which is why I gave it a 5-star rating. Then we have Rebel by Beverly Jenkins. This little historical romance like really caught me off guard, and this is such a sweet romance between Val and Drake. Val and Drake, and Drake's flirting in this book is why this is 5 stars. He is like kind of my dream man. I absolutely adore him, and I can't say enough good things about this cute, short little historical romance. If you're not a historical romance reader, I think you should definitely give Beverly Jenkins a try. Specifically, Rebel is one of my favorites. I think it tackles a lot of issues with incredible nuance as well. Then we have The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison, and this is a slow-paced, character-driven political fantasy, and I loved the character work in here. The world building was fantastic. The character work was just phenomenal, and that's why I loved this book. I love political fantasy so much, and this was an excellent example of that, and that's why this is on the list as well. Then we have a poetry collection, Homie by Jimenez Smith. Now this is a poetry collection of poems dedicated to Jimenez Smith's friend who passed away, and so this is a very hard-hitting poetry collection, but I think it is an excellent poetry collection. I think they did an excellent job capturing so many wide variety of emotions and grief in all of its forms, and Jimenez Smith is a local poet to me, and so I'm really happy I found their work and was able to appreciate it and love it. Then we have Shadow of the Gods, another book that I would not stop talking about. I went on a John Gwynne binge after finding this book. This is an epic Norse-inspired fantasy about Mommy Orca going on a revenge quest to try to find her captured son. And this is violent, this is bloody, this is very character-focused, and kind of slow paced, which is what I enjoy. I enjoy really character focused work, and I think John Gwynne really blew it out of the water, and he has become a favorite author of mine, and this was my introduction to him, so this is a full 5 stars from me. Then we have Mistakes Were Made by Meryl Wilsner. I love this book incredibly, and it's a sapphic contemporary romance age gap between a college graduate, soon to be graduate, and her roommate's mom. And I have a whole review up for this, so if you want more thoughts and feelings, please check that out. But I can't talk about this book without blushing, so that's all you need to know. This is excellent, and I keep reading it, and I keep loving it. Then we have Arrows of the Queen by Mercedes Lackey, and while I have broken up with Mercedes Lackey as an author after reading many of her books, and just finding her not to be an author for me going forward, this book meant and means a lot to me. This book, when I was reading it, made me feel like a kid again. It made me feel like I was reading in my armchair as a middle schooler, and just brought so many really powerful emotions out in me that I can't not have it on this list because of how powerful I felt about it. And I've never felt that way about a book, or it's been very long since I've found a book that made me feel that way. And so for that reason, it's on this list. And the whole series, the trilogy, is really good, and I just love it so dearly. But again, I'm not a Mercedes Lackey stan anymore. I just really appreciate the Arrows trilogy by her. Then we have Tripping Arcadia, which is a gothic horror novel about our main character who has to work as a physician's assistant to a very wealthy billionaire family, and wildness ensues. Talk about a character-driven story with eerie, horrifying elements, the horror of decadence and overconsumption and wealth, and I loved every second of this. I couldn't put it down. It made me kind of feel worried and sick to my tummy, which is my favorite feeling when it comes to horror, and this is queer, and it's everything I needed it to be and more. This blew me away. This is the year of Abby Jimenez and Part of Your World, and there's a TikToker named Grapey, Grapie. If I find her, I will link her down below, but she talks about how this book rewired her brain chemistry for romance, and I completely agree. This changed my perspective on romance as a genre and just blew it away. This is a small town, big time doctor and small town bed and breakfast owner romance, and as I keep reading it and rereading it, I love it more and more upon reread, and I just appreciate the nuance of this book and the care the author took with some of the harder hitting themes of like partner abuse from a previous relationship and all that. I just love this one so much, and I can't say enough good things about this. How could I forget? Almost forget about Small Miracles by Olivia Atwater. Now, this is the author who wrote Half a Soul and amongst other works in her Regency fairy tales, and this is a standalone contemporary fantasy romance, and this is my favorite Olivia Atwater so far. And this is about a fallen angel falling in love with a mortal, and it is so sweet and tender, and also has an incredible message about family and grief and coming together after tragedy and just everything being okay in the end. And this really moved me, and I think more people need to read this one. Not that Half a Soul isn't good. I still loved that other book, but I think people are sleeping on this one, so I will keep shouting about Small Miracles. Then we have a classic, The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. Look at my edition. This is the Historium Press Classics edition, if you're interested. It's incredibly floppy. I'm working on rereading this book right now and highlighting my favorite passages because I loved this book so much. I loved the romance. I loved the exploration of partner abuse in here from this perspective of an 1800s woman and from our author's perspective, from Anne Bronte's perspective. And this was incredibly modern for its time. And this, as I was listening to the audiobook, I was like, I wish I had a physical book so I could highlight some of these lines. And the reason I like this book specifically is because it's one of the most accessible classics I have read. Like, the lines and the writing isn't too challenging. I found it very readable and very easy to understand, as well as being an incredible story. I hate to do this, but I kind of have to. Another John Gwynne is on this list, Malice by John Gwynne. This is a classic prophecy story of a chosen one, a one for the light and a chosen one for the dark, and the two have to fight it out, and you're trying to figure out who's the chosen one. And very classic fantasy trope that I ate up. I loved it. I hate to put an author on the list twice, but I couldn't not put The Faithful and the Fallen entire series on here as well. I don't know what it is, but John Gwynne just knocks it out of the park every time, and I can't stop reading his books. We also have Iris Kelly Doesn't Date by Ashley Herring Blake. Now, Astrid Parker, which is the second book before this one, kind of disappointed me, and so I was really hesitant picking this one up, but this one nailed it out of the park. This is a sapphic contemporary romance, and I thought the nuance of this book was incredible. The exploration of anxiety. Stevie, one of our main protagonists, has anxiety, and I thought this was just beautiful, and it had that little extra something special that makes a 5-star romance for me. This just super worked for me. I was really rooting for this couple and compelled to keep reading, and I have to hats off to Ashley Herring Blake for pulling this one off. She really did that. She did that. Last book I have to talk about is Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. Now, this is a short novella. It's about a 6-hour audiobook about two women who are in a relationship together, and one woman has come back from a submarine excursion, and something went wrong during the dive, and she's kind of forever changed. And so we're navigating two timelines, two perspectives, one from the present timeline where we're trying to kind of figure out what's going on with one of the characters, why she's so different, what happened, and then we're getting her perspective from the past in the submarine and what happened. And this gets weird and twisty, and this is one of the most, like, it's horrifying in its writing. Like, horrifying things don't necessarily happen, but the writing of this book is incredibly eerie and twisted and dark, and just made me feel like that sick to my tummy feeling. And this is why I like horror so much, and we're exploring grief and letting go and moving on and change in a relationship. And I just think horror can be such an incredible vehicle to explore real world topics, and I think this one is an excellent example of that. Wow, those were the 16 books that I gave 5 full stars to. Don't ask me which one's my favorite. I'll never be able to tell you. But this was so much fun. I love doing these end of year videos. What are some of your 5-star reads from 2023? I would love to know, and happy reading in 2024.